What's up everybody, Subaru fan here for another weekly update video. So, I am currently in the 2015 Ford Edge Sport this week as a press car, first one from Ford, very exciting. And it's really nice. I apologize in advance for how long this weekly update is, so because of that I'm going to keep my statements brief, but I'm very impressed with the handling of this vehicle, and it's just a really nice thing to drive as far as SUVs go. And so a pretty nice vehicle, but you can hear all my thoughts in my upcoming review, which will be posted in a few weeks. But otherwise, other things about the channel, just to be on the lookout for, I will be doing an update on the Mustang and my thoughts on it, as well as a comparison video of my Mustang versus the Turbo Camaro, as far as, you know, my thoughts on it, kind of like how I did whenever I did the review of the SS and I did a comparison video. So that's something that should be coming out here this weekend or early next week, most likely. So yeah, other than that though, nothing new, so I'll send it back to me at the news desk for this week's news. Right, so for this week's news, the first thing is a very exciting but somewhat perplexing thing as well, and that is that the 2017 Subaru BRZ facelift was leaked out. I don't know if this was at a factory or what was going on, but it looks like there's obviously a white one and a black one that we see, and it looks spectacular. We'll just talk about the looks right off the bat here. The front bumper is somewhat similar to the one on the STI Performance concept, and looks really good. I love those new headlights though, with the LEDs, the bolder running lights there, and then you also have the individual dotted LEDs there, which look very, very sweet. I mean, overall, just I love the way they restyled it. I think it looks much better than the new 86 does. But on the inside, they've given it a new steering wheel, which has a bunch of buttons now, which a lot of people may not like. But otherwise, they've updated the infotainment and added the gloss carbon fiber trim like they have in the WRX and things like that. And some really good improvements there. It'll probably have 5 more horsepower, but we don't really know anything about it because although the New York Auto Show is this week, and they officially unveiled the Toyota 86, they didn't unveil the Subaru BRZ. All the attention was on the 2017 Impreza. They didn't even bring a BRZ to the show, which is very interesting, and I'll talk more about the Impreza in a minute, but I just find that really strange that, you know, these pictures leaked out and I was like, oh, well, we'll of course be seeing it this week since the Toyota version is coming out at the same time. And I don't know if maybe Toyota didn't want Subaru to steal some of the limelight or what the deal is, but there's no upcoming auto show that's large enough that it would make sense to unveil this. So I don't know if maybe we won't see a new BRZ until the LA Auto Show in November, but that would be kind of crazy. Maybe they'll just unveil it online and that'll be that. But kind of interesting they passed up the New York Auto Show. And anyway, I like the changes though, and we'll keep our fingers crossed still for a more powerful version or an STI version, but again, I would not hold my breath. But like I mentioned, the thing that Subaru actually did unveil at the New York Auto Show was the 2017 Subaru Impreza. And it's interesting. So this is the first car on the new Subaru Global platform, which is going to underpin most of all the future Subarus and things like that. And it's as far as the new Impreza looks, I don't know. I think it's kind of bland personally, and I mean, I like some of the body lines and the curves and things like that, but that front end just, honestly, it just shouts 2008 all over again to me. It's just a little too rounded, a little too soft, you know, and especially now the 5-door version to me looks better. Now they showed the 5-door version, the limited trim, which gets the nice LED headlights. Anything beneath the limited though gets these halogen headlights that look like they're at least 5 years old already, and overall just a very uninspiring design. And even in the back, now if you look at the concept of the rear in the, you know, for the 5-door hatchback and the sedan concepts that just unveiled back at Tokyo last year, those looked very good, but for this, for the production version, they filled in this spot where the taillight blends into the trunk and just filled it in with those white reverse lights, and I think it looks terrible if I'm honest. So yeah, I don't know, and this is what's going to be the basis for the next generation WRX and the new WRX STI, which is going to have this rumored hybrid electric power plant and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have to wait and see what materializes with that and see if they can work a miracle to morph this car into a very sweet looking WRX. But like I tweeted about earlier this week, I'm already getting sentimental over the current generation WRX. I think it looks fantastic, and I may miss it if they can't work a miracle on this new body style. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. The interior is much improved on this new Impreza, and they've made a lot of great improvements. And so we'll just keep our fingers crossed that a WRX version that comes down the road looks much better. For a restyle that looks really great, Nissan unveiled the 2017 GTR, and it's not all new, and I know a lot of people were upset, but Nissan has already confirmed that they're not doing an all-new GTR until at least 2020. So we have several more years of this current R35 style that needs to be stretched out, and so I think the improvements they made here are great. I think it looks fantastic with the new front bumper, the new grille, and of course the new rear bumper that they've tweaked slightly to look more like the Nismo version. But the big improvements here are the interior, which has gotten a complete overhaul and looks much, much better, way better. I think it's phenomenal now, and they made a lot of other great improvements. So to kick things off, it now has 565 horsepower, and so that's 20 more than the 2016 model, and 467 pound-feet of torque now, which is 4 pound-feet additional over the previous year, and so that's good improvements, nothing crazy. You can get that easily in the aftermarket if you wanted. But the big news here is that they said that it has a new titanium exhaust, has active sound management as well, which helps to probably pipe in some sound from the engine, make it sound a little better that way. It still has the same 6-speed dual clutch gearbox, but they said that it's been refined, and so it's less noisy and is smoother, which are my two biggest complaints with that transmission in the 2014 that I just reviewed. And so that is a huge improvement on its own. In addition, the other things that I also criticized in the 2014 GTR that I reviewed was that you could hear everything, and there wasn't a whole lot of sound insulation, things like that, and they've fixed that for this new version. They said that it has an acoustic glass windshield now, new sound insulation, and active noise cancellation as well, all to help give it a quieter ride. And they also said it's going to have a stiffer body structure, so it's going to be a sharper handler, and also the suspension has been retuned, so it offers a smoother ride, which is something I think a lot of GTR owners would appreciate as well. And I just think that overall it's spectacular. They say it has better cooling now. They say the seats are more comfortable. They restyled the seats, and they're obviously now everything is completely new on the inside. There's a 1-inch larger screen, so it's 8-inch touchscreen now, which has all the cool readouts in addition to the navigation, all that kind of stuff. And they took the number of switches from 27 down to 11. They said they're proud of that, and so that's great. Less clutter, and hopefully with the new infotainment system will be updated and brought up to speed here for modern times. And overall, I think it is the best improvement on the GTR since it was launched, honestly, and very excited to see that, and really good job Nissan there. Another very exciting car that unveiled was the all-new 2017 Mazda Miata MX-5 RF, which is this Targa, automatically folding Targa retractable hardtop roof thing, and it's sweet. I think it's very, very cool, and so you can see it in action and the way that it folds back and things. Very similar to the Targa top on the Porsche 911 Targa, and I think it's a very cool system. Obviously, it's going to probably add a good amount of weight to the vehicle, but that's totally okay because it looks great, and for those that wanted a hardtop Miata, you can now have one, and also still kind of have a Targa sensation for those that don't want a full-on top-down experience. So they didn't give any specifics except it's probably gonna have the same engines as the regular Miata, of course, and should be really great. And no word as to pricing, things like that. They did say that the top can be removed. It speeds up to like 6 miles per hour. So if you're rolling up to a red light, you can get a head start, I guess. But can't do it at speed, really. And either way, though, just really cool and a really nice surprise. No one was expecting Mazda to debut this. So it's really great that they just kind of pulled that out of nowhere. And so great to see that. Other Miata news is, of course, the Fiat 124 Abarth Spyder that we saw at the Geneva Motor Show just a few weeks ago has been officially confirmed that it's coming to the U.S., which is great news. It's going to be in the U.S. here. It's going to be called the Fiat 124 Spyder Elaboration Abarth. So I don't know why they added that additional part there, but they did. And so the interesting thing, though, about this is that I guess because of the crappy fuel that we get here in the States, this actually has 10 less horsepower than the European version. So the European version had 170 horsepower and it still had the same 184 pound-feet of torque, but we don't get that same 10 horsepower bump. So that's kind of a bummer because what we're looking at here is an Abarth version that's just as fast as the standard car, except this has, the retuned suspension, limited slip differential, and it's also going to have the sport-tuned exhaust so it sounds better, and you have the more aggressive looks, and all that is all fine and well, but I think it has Brembos as an option, things like that, but it's just why not give it that extra 10 horsepower? I'm sure they could probably retune it for American fuel and still get 10 more horsepower out of this turbo engine that's been shown to go in the 500 Abarth to be, almost 250 horsepower with the right mods. So very easy, I think, to squeeze that 10 horsepower out of it still. Kind of an odd move there because you don't see all the other European cars losing horsepower when they come over here. So, but that is what they're doing. I'm just glad they're bringing it here at all, though. So beggars can't be choosers, I suppose, and still very cool to see that. Another car that's a slight disappointment is Ford unveiled the 2016 Shelby GT-H, which is a rental car only thing. So if you remember, in 2006 they did the same thing, and they were both to commemorate the original 1966 Hertz Rent-A-Racer program, where you could rent, I should say, a Mustang that was modified and upgraded a little bit, and take it to the track and beat on it, and then go drop it off at your rental counter when you're done with it. And it was a really cool idea back then. And of course, these days, it's not quite as lenient as it was back then. Back then in the 60s, people were actually dropping those upgraded engines and swapping them with their current, normal Mustang engines, and there was all kinds of funny stuff going on. Anyway, for this Hertz edition, they're only doing 140 of them. They're actually built by Ford. Now, Ford is going to just be making the regular Mustang GT and then sending it to Shelby American, who does all these upgrades to them and then ships them off to Hertz. And they'll be available through the Adrenaline collection at Hertz. They're only making 140 though, so they're going to be pretty rare. But for those that have a large airport that has the Adrenaline collection, you'll be able to rent one of those. I believe they said sometime this summer, and it's great though. They didn't actually give any specific, new horsepower numbers or anything like that. We just know it has the Ford Racing handling package on it, which is lowering springs, retuned dampers. You can see all the different body tweaks that they did on the inside and the outside to make it a little more aggressive looking, and obviously the signature black and yellow stripes, and looks really, really cool, but was hoping for an actual production version that people could go buy and things like that. Other news from Ford is that they officially unveiled the new Lincoln Navigator concept, which made a big splash in New York thanks to its gull-wing doors and its 3 steps that rolled out from the side skirt there and made it a very dramatic car to show up in if you were to be driving around in this. And it looks great, and as we know from Lincoln's past with the Continental concept, the production version was very, very similar to the concept, and that was really awesome and really amazing. So I would expect the same for this Navigator. Now, they were talking with the designer of this, and he said that it won't have the gull-wing doors for production because that wouldn't make a lot of sense in tight parking spaces and things like that. But aside from not having those gull-wing doors, you're basically looking at the production version. All this stuff is very easily put into production, and if they make it exactly like that with normal doors, I think that thing is going to sell like hotcakes. I mean, it looks very elegant, kind of Range Rover-esque, and especially towards the rear there, but I think it looks really fantastic. And it's got 3 rows, very, very luxurious interior. It's going to be running the 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6, which has 400 horsepower, and really, really sweet. It has the semi-autonomous technology. I think that is just a beautiful, I would say that's one of the most beautiful SUVs I've ever seen, honestly, and fantastic styling by Lincoln once again. And so hopefully, I think they said this is actually going to be available early next year. So quick turnaround here on this, and so great to see that. And another really, really striking car. There was a lot of them at New York this year, but Genesis, the new Hyundai luxury brand, they just unveiled the New York concept, which it's previewing what a 3 Series or A4 fighter is going to look like from them. They want to have, that's going to be their smallest model, and it looks so striking. I mean, there's not a bad angle on this car. Every single angle looks amazing, and hopefully it doesn't lose too much of this flair for the production version, because if they produce something like that, I think it's going to outsell the 3 Series, honestly, because that looks way better in my opinion. They said it's going to be a RoboDrive based platform, so it's going to have, hopefully good handling, all that kind of stuff. They're going to have an N performance version to rival the M's and all that other stuff, from the other German automakers and things like that. And so the N performance version that I think we're hearing will have a 3.3 liter twin turbo V6 with something well over 300 horsepower, 335 to 365, somewhere in that ballpark. And should be pretty impressive performer. And so fingers crossed that, like I said, it actually translates to having most of this actual styling for the production version. Speaking of the German automakers, they had some pretty cool unveilings. Audi unveiled the R8 Spyder, which we already saw spy shots of this probably very same exact car in yellow. And so we see it here on the show floor. Looks great. And so, you know, all the same stuff as the regular R8. And just, you know, there's a typical convertible that we were expecting to see and does not disappoint. As far as Mercedes goes, they unveiled two new vehicles. And for those that are missing some cars that I'm not talking about, I talked about a lot of the New York debuts last week as well. So you're going to want to go back and watch last week's video for some of the stuff you missed. Like they did also unveil several other AMG models, but I already talked about those last week. The I didn't talk about yet though is the 2017 Mercedes AMG C63 Cabriolet, which is of course the convertible version of the C Coupe that you know, debuted recently. And so same power as the Coupe, 503 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque for the S model, or if you go with the standard one, it's 469 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. And so, you know, it's, I think, a second, or it's a tenth of a second or two slower than the Coupe and the sedan versions, but otherwise identical performance really, and really looks good as a convertible as well. So great to see that. And then another car that we just saw spy shots of last week, and now we're seeing the production version here, is the 2017 Mercedes-Benz GLC Coupe, which, you know, is the same basic styling up front as the regular GLC, but then they just made it the fastback design there in the back. And as I joked about last week, it's for all the people that want an SUV without the practicality of an SUV. You can now have this more attractive, I suppose, fastback looking version. And so cool to have that option for those that, you know, are considering one of those. The next debut from New York Auto Show was the Toyota Prius Prime, which is a new version of the Prius that has, it's a plug-in hybrid kind of thing. So it has 22 miles of purely electric range, which is a little less impressive than on some of the other competitors and a lot of the other stuff out there. But it's cool nonetheless. They did fix the front bumper and the front end to not look as crazy as the standard Prius. It definitely looks, you know, a little bit more like the Mirai hydrogen-powered vehicle, and looks better. The back end is still a little wonky, but still better than, I think, the current Prius. And so, again, beggars can't be choosers. But yeah, interesting to see that. Next is Kia has unveiled the 2017 Cadenza, which is totally new chassis, new styling and everything. I think the styling looks good. It's very reminiscent of a lot of the Lexus design cues and elements, things like that, although it's definitely less bold than the Lexus, and I think it looks good nonetheless. But this engine has been reworked to have some better fuel economy. It also has an estimated 290 horsepower, they're saying here, but they didn't give any specific numbers as far as you know, fuel economy goes and things like that. But they said that the updated chassis now consists of over 50% advanced high-strength steel, which is twice as much as the previous model. And so, you know, it's got a longer wheelbase now, and you know, better room inside and things like that, and looks pretty good. So cool to see that. Another vehicle that was unveiled was the 2017 Buick Encore, which is a refresh of the current model, and you know, looks pretty good. We got the updated styling front and rear, new interior that now supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and a few other little, you know, updates and things like that. But overall, mostly the same, but nice to see that little refresh there. Alfa Romeo has officially announced all the details in regards to the US version of the Giulia and the different trim levels and engines we'll see here in America. And so unless you get the Quadrifoglio version, which is the 505 horsepower amazing one, the standard model engine is going to be just a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo with 276 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, and that will be in the Giulia and the Giulia TI, which is what the mid-range version is going to be called. And so either way, I mean, it's still a very, very nice vehicle. I mean, standard features include a 7-inch driver information display in between the analog gauges. They all have flat bottom steering wheels, keyless start. They're all going to come with either a 6.5-inch or 8.8-inch widescreen infotainment system. And you know, there's going to be sport, luxury, and performance packages you'll be able to get on them, and there'll be 13 different colors. But of course, the one to get will still be the Quadrifoglio, which has the 2.9-liter twin-turbo V6 with 505 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque, 3.8 seconds 0 to 60 there on the Quadrifoglio for the States. And some options you can get on that are carbon fiber shell Sparco seats, which Alfa Romeo claims are the lightest in the segment, and they also give you an option for carbon ceramic Brembo brakes, which is another great option. Another Italian car coming to the States is the Maserati Levante SUV, and they officially confirmed pricing on them. So they're going to be starting at $72,000 for the base model, which still comes very nicely equipped, and that will give you the 3-liter twin-turbo V6 with 345 horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds. Then there's the Levante S, which will be $83,000 starting, and that has the same engine, but it has 424 horsepower and will do 0 to 60 in 5 seconds flat. They both use an 8-speed automatic, and they all have all-wheel drive, and we know there's going to be a plug-in hybrid version coming down the road eventually as well. Back to some normal car news here. Chevrolet has officially unveiled the 2017 Sonic, which gets a refresh, restyle here for inside and out, and it gives it a less distinctive front end that some people say looks a little bit like a Camaro, but looks good. Still has the same engine choices and all that kind of stuff, and so overall a really nice little improvement there for the Sonic. A really exciting thing is Acura brought the NSX GT3 to New York, which is a race car. It's not a street legal car. But the interesting thing is it's confirmed this does not have a hybrid powertrain, and it doesn't have all-wheel drive. It's rear-wheel drive. So we're hoping, now this is a competition-only vehicle, but we're hoping there's going to be an NSX Type R that uses this same powertrain of just twin-turbo V6, rear-wheel drive, no hybrid, and, will be a more pure version of the NSX. And so we'll just have to wait and see if they do, in fact, bring that or not. But another thing that Acura did bring to the New York Auto Show is the restyled 2017 MDX, which gets the nose off the Precision concept and restyled front end there to go along with that. Otherwise, though, it's mostly the same. There's a new sport hybrid option that you can get, and otherwise, though, I think it looks pretty good. It's a little plain, if I'm honest, but I think it still looks pretty good, and hopefully that does well for Acura. Another SUV that was unveiled was the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trailhawk, which is like all the other Trailhawk models in the Jeep lineup. It's the most off-road equipped version, and they say Jeep claims this is the most capable full-size SUV, and should make it a very impressive performer, and looks good. Has the same other, the red tow hooks and things like that, like all the other Trailhawks. And I think it actually looks really great here on the Grand Cherokee. And so very cool to see that. And another vehicle that is not quite as good at off-roading is Volkswagen has unveiled the 2017 Golf All-Track in an attempt to chase the Subaru Outback for sales. And so what we are looking at here is a Golf Sport Wagon that has just been given all-wheel drive, raised up an inch, and had slightly more aggressive body cladding put on there to give it more of a rugged look. Otherwise, it's mostly the same. And but yeah, hopefully that'll sell well for Volkswagen, and I think it's a cool little idea to bring that to the States here. Another SUV that was unveiled in New York was the 2017 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, which is a plug-in hybrid version of the Outlander, and so we don't have any official details on the specs of that, but they've shown it here, and looks just like all the other Outlanders for the most part. Another thing that Mitsubishi brought to the New York Auto Show was the restyled 2017 Mitsubishi Mirage G4, which is the sedan version. We know that the hatchback version got some updates as well, and those same updates are applied here to the sedan version with the slightly bigger brakes and things like that. And, it's an inexpensive Econobox kind of car, but, it's got some nice little touches here and there, and should be as good of a seller, if not better, than the current Mirage, which is currently selling very well. Some other news from Chevrolet is that they officially unveiled, in addition to the ZL1 that I talked about last week, they also unveiled the ZL1 convertible, which is same power, same performance, just with a drop top, and looks spectacular. So great to see that they are including a convertible in that. I think it's going to be awesome. I love that color, by the way, too. Now, we also, this past week, saw some spy shots of the next generation Camaro Z28, which has one heck of a rear wing. I think they might have stolen a rear wing off of an STI and put it on the Camaro, because it is enormous, and that's going to be one heck of a car. You can tell, it's covered in tons of camo, but man, does that thing look crazy, even under all the camo. So it should be one heck of a car. We're thinking it's going to use the same motor as the current Z28 Camaro, the previous version, naturally aspirated, so it's not too similar to the ZL1, but who knows, anything's possible at this point. And so yeah, very cool to see that. And then the last two stories this week are Tesla. We know they're going to be unveiling the Model 3 in about a week from now, and that'll be really big news. But for this week, we know that they officially have made the ludicrous mode a retrofit option. So if you bought a Model S with a P90D package, but you didn't get the ludicrous mode whenever you first bought it, you can now pay $10,000 to have it retrofitted onto your car, and you'll be able to go back and get that ludicrous mode in case you were feeling like you're missing out a little bit. So cool that you'll be able to add that on. And then the last thing is Jaguar's special division that they rebuilt the D types and things like that. They're doing 9 of the XKSSs, which is a very cool thing because what happened was the history behind the XKSS is that they were built from leftover D types from they were racing cars essentially and adapted for to be a road car essentially. But then a fire happened and 9 of them were burned in this fire, and so Jaguar is building 9 new ones to make up for those 9 that were planned but were lost, and they're selling them for $1.4 million each, which is crazy, but I think they'll probably go for way more than that once they are resold. And this car is famous for being one of Steve McQueen's favorite cars, and his version sold for a lot of money and is currently owned by the Peterson Museum. And it's just such a striking car, some of the craziest curves ever on a car, and just really a beautiful thing. Anyway, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So send back to me in the car. Alrighty, so I'll leave you guys with a nice little acceleration here, like I always do. Sport mode. Yeah, this thing's quick. It's very fast. It's got the 2.7 liter twin turbo EcoBoost, 315 horsepower. Gets up and goes nice. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching the long weekly update, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.